Have you ever heard of HeLa cells? Henrietta Lacks was born Loretta Pleasant in Roanoke, Virginia, in 1920. Life in Clover was tough. Henrietta started working the tobacco fields at a young age, alongside her cousins. But in early 1951, Henrietta's life took a tragic turn. She began experiencing severe abdominal pain and bleeding. After visiting her local doctor, she was referred to the public ward of Johns Hopkins Hospital, one of the few major hospitals in the area that would treat African American patients at the time. There, Dr. Howard Jones diagnosed her with a malignant tumor on her cervix. During her treatment, something happened that would change the course of medical history forever. Without Henrietta's knowledge or permission, a surgeon took a sample of her cancerous tumor. This was a common practice at Johns Hopkins at the time, where Dr. George Gay was trying to grow human cells in a lab. For years, he had been trying and failing. Every cell sample he collected would die within a few days. But Henrietta's cells were different. They were extraordinary. Unlike any cells seen before, they didn't die. Instead, they doubled every 24 hours. They were, for all intents and purposes, immortal. Dr. Gay named the cell line HeLa, using the first two letters of Henrietta's first and last names. While her cells were beginning their immortal journey in a lab, Henrietta's own life was fading. She underwent radium treatments, the standard for cervical cancer at the time. The treatments were brutal and left her infertile and in constant pain. Despite her suffering, she never complained, often telling her concerned family that she was fine. But the cancer was aggressive and spread rapidly throughout her body. On October 4, 1951, just 8 months after her diagnosis, Henrietta Lacks passed away at the age of 31. She was buried in an unmarked grave in the family cemetery in Clover, Virginia. Her family had no idea that a part of her was still alive. They mourned her loss and tried to move on. Day was left to raise their 5 children alone. Their daughter Elsie, whose condition had worsened, was institutionalized at the Crownsville Hospital, where she died a few years later under tragic circumstances. The family struggled, unaware of the medical miracle Henrietta had unknowingly provided. Meanwhile, HeLa cells were revolutionizing science. Dr. Gay freely shared the cells with researchers around the world. A factory was even established to mass-produce them. HeLa cells were instrumental in developing the polio vaccine in the 1950s. They were the first human cells ever cloned. They were sent into space to see how human cells would react to zero gravity. They've been used to study cancer, AIDS, gene mapping, and countless other diseases. More than 11,000 patents involve HeLa cells. They are the foundation of a multi-billion-dollar industry. For more than 20 years, the Lacks family remained in the dark. They didn't know about HeLa cells, and the world didn't know about Henrietta Lacks. The name was a mystery, often mistakenly reported as Helen Lane or Henrietta Lacks. The truth began to surface in the 1970s. Researchers discovered that many other cell cultures had been contaminated and overgrown by the remarkably resilient HeLa cells. To create a way to identify the HeLa cells and distinguish them from others, scientists needed genetic markers from Henrietta's family. They tracked down her children to get blood samples. Imagine the confusion. One day, a researcher calls you up and starts talking about your mother as cells being alive in a lab, decades after she died. The family was shocked and bewildered. They had no idea what was going on. They didn't have the scientific background to understand the complex information being thrown at them. All they understood was that a part of their mother, a part of their DNA, had been taken and used without their consent. This revelation brought a new kind of pain. They felt violated and exploited. While corporations and scientists were profiting from Henrietta's cells, her family was struggling. Some of them couldn't even afford health insurance. They received no financial compensation for this massive contribution to science. The story of Henrietta Lacks finally reached a wider audience thanks to the work of author Rebecca Skloot. She spent a decade researching and building a relationship with the Lacks family, particularly Henrietta's daughter, Deborah. Her 2010 best-selling book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, brought Henrietta's story out of the shadows and into the global spotlight. Skloot's book did more than just tell a compelling story. It ignited a global conversation about medical ethics, consent, and racial justice in scientific research. For centuries, medical research has had a dark history of exploiting vulnerable populations, particularly African Americans. The Tuskegee syphilis study is a prime example. Henrietta's story forced the scientific community to confront this legacy. In the years since, there has been a push to give Henrietta the recognition she deserves. In 2013, the National Institutes of Health reached an agreement with the Lacks family. This agreement gives the family some control over how Henrietta's genomic data is used. 2 family members now sit on the NIH committee that reviews applications for using the HeLa genome data. This was a landmark step, but it doesn't erase the past. The family still doesn't receive direct financial compensation from the commercial use of HeLa cells. However, the family, through the Henrietta Lacks Foundation, founded by Rebecca Skloot, has been able to provide grants to Henrietta's descendants for education and medical expenses. Organizations and institutions have also started to honor her. Johns Hopkins has named a research building after her and hosts an annual symposium in her name. The World Health Organization appointed her family as goodwill ambassadors for cervical cancer elimination, recognizing the injustice of Henrietta dying from a now preventable and treatable disease. Henrietta Lacks was a wife, a mother, and a vibrant member of her community. Her cells have saved countless lives and advanced medicine in ways that are hard to comprehend. But her story is also a powerful reminder of the human beings behind the scientific samples. It teaches us the profound importance of consent, ethics, and recognizing the contributions of every individual, especially those who have been marginalized and overlooked. Henrietta's legacy is not just in the immortal cells that bear her name, but in the crucial conversations about justice and humanity in science that her story continues to inspire. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as powerful as I did, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.